So what's up everyone, this is episode 4 of Riding With Rayna. This week's guest is Mr. Tom McCarthy.
Yo.
I'm pretty sure you've seen him in some videos before, but just for people who haven't seen you before, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm a musician, as is the general theme. I play guitar in an original band called Aaron Buchanan and the Cult Classics.
Nice.
Yeah, long ticks. And then, I teach and stuff. I do various bits and pieces. So yeah.
Awesome, man. So what got you into music?
Honestly, Limp Bizkit.
I was not expecting that.
Wes Borland is the ultimate showman.
Yeah.
I just remember seeing like the roller video, those guys on the top of the World Trade Center, and just being like, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah, yeah, because we must have been about like 10 or 11 when that came out.
Yeah, and it was on all the music channels all the time.
All the time.
Like,
yeah, that was sick.
Fred Durst with his backwards baseball cap and all that. I just thought they were the coolest guys.
The first 2 albums I ever bought with my own money were Hybrid Theory and Hot Dog Flavoured Water on the same day from Tesco. Imagine buying those records from Tesco's these days. So
good.
So then you just jumped straight into playing guitar. How did that work?
Yeah. Well, my brother had a 9-string guitar, and I remember he went over to his mates when he was in year 7. He's 4 years older than me. Yeah. He went over there with like a 9-string guitar, came back, and my dad brought him back, and he came to the living room, and my dad was to him, I was like, check this out, and Liam played bum 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 bum.
And now we make a living teaching other people that.
Yeah. He did that, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm kind of interested in that. I asked for an electric guitar for, I can't remember if it was my 11th or 12th birthday or Christmas or something like that. So I got one of those encore packs from Argos or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I had a next door neighbour that had a drum kit, so we learned how to play Faith, the Limp Bizkit version.
Oh, obviously. Nice, that version's so good, man.
Yeah.
Put the link in the description. Yeah, I love that, man. Limp Bizkit were one of those bands where I remember the drum sound used to really impress me even then.
Yeah.
Before I knew anything about it.
Yeah.
It was just, they were one of those bands who, of their time, they were just like, everyone loved them.
Yeah.
It was rare to meet someone who was like into alternative culture, whether they were a skater or goth or whatever. Everyone loved Limp Bizkit. Yeah, they were just sick.
Rightfully so, though. They were great, and then they went out of fashion for a long time, but I think people have kind of embraced them again now. You know? Yeah,
they're more of they went through that phase of being like, oh, that's not cool anymore, but now it's kind of retro and cool again, and it's like, oh, remember this band? I'd love to go watch them again.
I've never seen them, so I'd like to see them one day.
If they did a greatest hits tour, I'd be there, man.
I think every tour is a greatest hits tour now.
We'd be there at the front, like.
Oh yeah.
Nice. Well, speaking of touring and stuff, man, you do a lot of touring. It's one of the reasons I wanted to get you on this episode. Mm-hmm. In previous episodes, we've mainly been speaking about how we got into music and ways that we teach and stuff. I thought it would actually be cool to incorporate. Well, these podcasts are all done on the road in the car, and obviously being on tour involves a lot of that, and you've been on tour many times, and I know you've got a lot of cool stories. So I was just wondering if you could share with the people at home maybe your best and worst tour memories. Okay. There's got to be some gold in there, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's every day is like the best and the worst kind of thing, because generally the lifestyle is like you spend 23 hours a day doing absolutely nothing at all.
Yeah. And
then for 1 hour it's just manic, like getting all your stuff ready and all that kind of stuff, getting onto the stage and obviously performing.
Yeah.
So it's good. It's kind of a weird mind frame to be in. But the best tour, the easiest tour I ever did was I did a bus tour in 2011. And we were supporting a band called My Passion.
Yeah.
And my band at the time was called Never Meets Maybe. And that was the first time we did that, and it was just like amazing. Everyone's got their own bug. You fall asleep one place, you wake up at the next place. It's like, nice. This is great.
Like pro level touring, you got your own bus, your bunks.
Yeah, it was
no shitting on the bus.
Yeah, yeah. If you need to shit on the bus, you do something called hot bagging.
Oh, that's gross.
Shit into a plastic bag. I don't think anyone did it, but
this is going to be the least PG episode.
It's not a PG lifestyle, really, touring.
No.
Yeah, that was awesome. Like after you play, there's 2 lounges. There's a downstairs one, which is generally like a production one, so the TM and stuff was in there, and upstairs was just like
tour manager.
Yeah, tour manager, and upstairs was like party room. So we just drink
So that's like that. What you've just explained is how people always pick people who aren't in bands and people in low-level bands who are just starting out. That's how they assume tour life is.
Yeah.
That small section for the entire every awake second of being on tour, but it's not, is it?
No.
Like the good moments of like the hour and a half you're on stage and the occasional like banter in the bus.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is quite stressful and gnarly and exhausting, isn't it?
There is a load of that.
So,
but I started touring in 2009, and that was 2011. That was the first time I did the bus tour.
Yeah.
I haven't done a bus tour since, although the way that we do it now is just like hire a van, and they're quite nice, and they've got like TVs and stuff in, and we stay in hotels. So you don't really need a bus like that. Sometimes it's more cost effective to do it that way.
Yeah.
It just depends really. But
with East Town Pirates, we used to have a bus we called the Beast, which would fit all of our gear and about 9 people. So Austin would bring 4 or 5 people along with us, you know, to do merch and just to help us, like, you know, on the tour. But it was cheaper just to keep our current gnarly old bus and sleep on people's floors or get like a Premier Inn. And and it doesn't sound as rock and roll, but I guarantee like 9 out of 10 bands just do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Currently, a lot of stuff I'll just travel down in my own car and even just drive home that night or sleep in the car. Or
yeah, I do a hell of a lot of that.
It's never as rock and roll as people assume, is it? But you get those little glimpses like when you had your bus tour, and that just makes you think like, oh man, if this was my job, I'd love it, but it would also be I'd die when I'm 60.
Yeah.
Like that'd be a good age to reach.
That's the thing.
So that's your best memories. So like having the nice bus and the TM and everything.
That was cool. But I mean, like I say, every time I go out, there's like moments where I think, oh, this is just great. Like I love it. Like the last thing I did in August, we were supporting Skid Row. All of the shows were great, all sold out and stuff like that. It's just playing in these like big venues that I hadn't done before. Just absolutely loving it. That was great. Were you gonna ask me about my
worst?
bad,
What's the worst, man?
So there's a couple of real standout moments. So the first one was again with Never Miss Maybe. This was after we did the bus tour and stuff. It might have been the same year even, but we did a tour which covered about 6 weeks.
That's a long tour.
Yeah, well, it was kind of 2 tours. So the first week or so, we were supporting a band called Sonic Boom 6.
Oh, I love those guys.
Yeah, they're really cool.
I think we've played with them in East Town Pirates a few times.
Yeah, they're like a band with the like strong punk roots kind of thing. But
our bass player loves them.
Drummers, they're an awesome band. Real nice guys as well. It was a bit of a mishmash for us though. Mishmatch.
You're having a Rayna moment, man. There's no cuts as well. It's all going to be in there.
No. Because we're a post-hardcore band, very much at that time.
Yeah.
And they were doing their thing, so you know, it wasn't bad. Like people didn't actively hate us, but I don't think people particularly enjoyed us.
Yeah.
And then after that, we did a tour with a band called Bikzit 10. They're my favourite UK rock band.
Yeah, I've heard of those guys. I know when you were in a Mercia, I remember hearing about that band around that time.
Yeah.
So what's that, 2010, 11?
This tour was in 2011, but those guys had been going since about 2006, I think.
Yeah.
Like for any of you guys that are watching this that haven't checked them out. They did 2 albums, and I just think that they're amazing. Ryan, who's the singer, has just got one of the most unique voices, and it's just such a character, like larger than life kind of thing.
That's really cool.
When it's on stage. So just check them out. But anyway, so it was kind of, I think we're about 4 weeks in, and I came down with like a gnarly flu type thing, and I was still smoking at the time. So I just remember, it's awful. I don't do it now for a reason. But this was one of the days where it was like we were sleeping either in the van or at someone's house, and it was someone's house that they could only have like 2 of us in or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was sleeping in the van, just on the floor, and like my chest was rattling when I was breathing, and I was like, it was so cold outside. It was November. I was like, what the hell am I doing here?
Yeah.
And like you have to carry on. Like I say, there was still a couple of weeks after that.
You don't get any sick leave or calling off sick when you're on tour.
Exactly, because like it's happening then or it's not happening at all, unless you're a massive band, in which case you can reschedule.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to be out there and make a name and stuff, we were a support band. We were the first in a 3-band bill. Yeah. So if we pull out, it's like, well, we're not going to take these guys out because they cancelled halfway through. So you're there, you need to commit to it. So that was one. The other one was the first tour I did in the Cult Classics.
Oh, you've got 2 bad ones.
Yeah. this one is not like one particular moment, although there's a couple of particular moments that build to one thing. We were trying to run rigs, complex rigs, like guitar setups and stuff like that. That was way beyond what we should have been doing at the time.
Do you mind shutting your window just while we're on here, because I'm worried the audio isn't clear? Cool.
And I've got a very, very quiet voice. So we were running these ridiculous guitar rigs. I was using 2 amps, and the other guitarist, Story, was using 2 amps as well. And pretty much everything that could go wrong with gear went wrong on that tour. So we spent a week in pre-production. Everything sounded great, but it was like a noise treated room and all that kind of stuff. We had our sound man listening in the other room and like mixed everything sounded like spotless. And I was also borrowing a guitar from Bikzit, the double neck, and that was going to be a big showpiece in the set. So we took that back after the pre-production. The week came that we were going to go out, went to pick up the guitar, and like, oh no, this guitar's gone out somewhere else, but we'll give you this one instead. So they gave me another one, and one of the switches was broken. So that was cutting in and out. The first show we did, both of my amps were phasing out, and I was just like, you couldn't hear it. Like I went off into the sound guy, how did it sound? It's like, it sounded terrible. Like your amps are working against each other. So, oh no. So I went down to use one the next day, and there was something wrong with it.
That really sucks. I think gear issues really they annoy me more than anything, because they're the thing that in the moment you sort of have control over. But when it's something you know you can't fix immediately, you just have to deal with it. It's a bit like I'm trying to think of a drum equivalent where like I mean, only an amateur would maybe turn up with 1 pair of sticks, but say you break a stick mid-song and you're playing with half a stick, or you go through your snare head and you haven't got a spare snare drum with you. Like, those sorts of things are so annoying, but it takes a real professional just to like finish the song and sort it out.
Generally, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong at some point.
What advice?
The law of averages.
So, what advice would you give people if they're about to embark on their first ever tour, even if it's just like a little 3-day thing with their mates and their first band and they've got a van? What do you think are things to remember to take with you and to prep for that you'd never think to prep for? My big thing is to actually take toilet roll.
Toilet roll.
Things like that. Batteries, everything.
There's a story that I don't know if I can say.
Say it, and if I have to cut it out, I will.
Okay, well, one of the guys in Never Means Maybe, this is a tour that they did before I joined the band, so it's definitely not me. He, as a bet, did a tour where he wasn't allowed to go for number 2 in the toilet. So
for the whole tour?
For the whole tour.
That's so random.
He managed to do it, so there's some other gritty details there, but I'm not going to go into that.
Oh, that's like a massive, like, almost cliffhanger. People are going to be like, I want to know where he pooped.
Well, come and ask me if you want to find out. And if you're too young, then I'm not going to tell you the full stories.
Awesome. I'm going to tackle some of the... I put a post out on Facebook earlier saying, if you could ask Tom McCarthy anything, what would it be? We got some pretty random responses here, man, so I'm just going to read some out to you and see what your responses are. A couple of them are from your significant other. I think maybe airing some dirty laundry on Facebook. Why do you eat chips that are a day old?
We had this discussion earlier. The good thing about when you get chips from a chip shop is that they're just as good the next day. I
quite like day old chips, man. I also reheat rice the day after, and everyone's like, no, you're going to die. If it's piping hot, you're fine, man. I don't understand this question from Harley, but we'll see if we can tackle it. Who would Tom McCarthy be if he wasn't you?
What does that mean?
Exactly. So if you were me, who would you be?
The Rock, probably the most charismatic man in
the Rock,
the universe.
Man. The Rock is the one. This will help me segue. I'll bring that up again in a bit. I wanted to segue that on later. There's some random questions here that don't make sense, so I actually quite like this because it's going to have some thought-provoking answers. So Ben Driver has asked, if you wore stilts for one day, how tall would I be the next day?
You'd be exactly the same height that you were.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Yeah, the stilts, me wearing stilts doesn't affect the height of...
I was hoping that would go over your head because you were concentrating on driving. I'm trying to load some previous questions, but the old internet isn't great here now that we're in Woodbridge. Let me see if I can try and remember a previous one. We can come back to that. I want to wait till I've got some signal. So, there's a thing that I normally ask everybody on the podcast right at the end, but with you I thought it might be nice just to get it in midway so we can finish the conversation talking about another passion that we both have. So I ask everybody who comes on the show, I like saying that I bring people on, but really people take me places. Like, it's called Riding With Rayna, but I'm never the driver. Driving Rayna, there was another name idea I had, but Riding With Rayna's got some cool alliteration in there. So I know just from knowing you quite well that you do a lot of driving to and from shows. Like the time we randomly were both, where were we?
In Rushden.
Rushden, which is like miles away up north. I had a gig there with East Ham Pirates supporting Sex Pistols, and you were at a rehearsal, and we were like a stone's throw from each other, and it was so random, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's madness.
I can't remember. I think I might have just checked in online.
Yeah.
And you saw that I was in Rushden, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm digressing massively. So what I was getting at is I always ask someone what their most this might link into your tour stories, but hopefully you've got separate ones. What is your least and most enjoyable drives to gigs or whatever that you've ever had? So, you know, we've all had those super long drives that are a ball ache, and people have heard my stories before on the podcast, but does anything spring to mind as like the worst experience you've ever had driving to a show? Or again, things just going wrong, or like you're having one of those days and you're like, really?
Yeah, we did. This was the first ever tour I did, and this was with Mercia. This is kind of a funny story. This is
Harley still wears his Mercia t-shirt.
I know, I love
That's
it.
Awesome, isn't it?
It's great. I don't know if I've still got any of those, but we were driving from Hull to Southampton, which is a long old way.
A long old way.
Yeah, but we noticed
That's what the sat nav says when you put the postcode in.
Long things. The engine kept overheating, and we're like, what the hell is going on? So we kept pulling over and putting in like 2 litres of water into the thing, and it would just disappear in about half an hour.
That's madness.
Yeah, and this was me and Craig that were in the van at the time. Craig Thorpe, fantastic guitarist. He lives in Edinburgh now, I think.
Plug-in.
Yeah. And Andrew Bass, who's just like a local legend. Great singer. I don't think he does anything anymore.
Oh, man.
But it's just like one of the coolest dudes ever. But we were like, Bass is like, he does a little bit of everything. He's like a handyman.
Yeah. Is he like the Rich Webb of that band? Do you mean like everything in terms of music? Or?
No, he like,
I was just plugging Rich Webb. WebbTunes, link in the description.
I've got some other posts we'll be doing later.
Alright, cool beans.
But we're like, me and Craig don't know anything about that. Typical like 2009 tight jeans, tight shirt, not knowing anything about anything apart from like progressive metal music.
Yeah, man.
And we're like, Bass, is this normal that we're putting in 2 litres of water and it seems to disappear? It's like, yeah, no, like vans take a lot of water. Like, okay, we would
not that much.
So we got to Southampton after like stopping every like few miles, which is awful. And then he kind of opened the boot and stuff. He looked at it. It's like, not the boot, the hood.
The hood.
And looked at it. It's like, I can see what's wrong with this, and I can fix it. All I need is some chewing gum and Rizzler. And we're like, that sounds weird.
That's super like MacGyver.
Yeah. We're like, oh, we'll take your word for it, Bass. And he did it. And we were driving, and the thermometer gauge wasn't going anywhere. It's like, oh man, how the hell did you do that? That's amazing. We got just out of Southampton, and loads of black smoke was kicking from under the hood. We're like, oh my god! So we pulled over. We waited for ages. Like the AA people showed up, and we're like, "You've unplugged your thermometer gauge." So he put the Rizzler and chewing gum on there, just unplugged the thermometer gauge, and forgot to plug it in. So we thought we'd fixed it, but it was just destroyed that engine.
That's mad.
And then we spent 24 hours in the service stations outside Southampton. So that was one, but that was funny. You know, like a lot of these things, they go wrong, but
when you look back on them, they then become a positive memory.
Yeah.
But that's that thing. Like I was reading something before about how your brain is designed to only favour positive memories, because whenever you start retaining way more information, like you don't have never-ending space up there. You've got to make room for this stuff. So your brain favours positive memories, and the negative ones sort of get shifted out, and you never actually, it's hard to explain it. The way it's sort of said is that you never have an actual memory of something bad that's happened to you. You start to just remember telling the story of the bad thing, so it's easy for them to get exaggerated. But that way it means you are, even with something bad that happens, you're more likely to remember the good parts of it, or the funny parts of it, like you said, it being actually quite a funny thing. Because otherwise you just go into full meltdown. If like you imagine if like it was the opposite and your brain only retained negative information, everyone would be so sad all the time. I'm digressing massively. I'm still trying to get some signal to load up these questions, that's why I keep looking down at my phone. So you're a teacher as well, aren't you? So you don't only do your shows and gigging and writing, but how long have you been teaching, and more importantly, how did you get into it?
Since 2012. Like, I got into it really through
that long, so it's like 6 years.
Yeah, like it's taken a while to build and stuff like that, and at the time I was working a part-time job and trying to build that up, so I couldn't go like straight into it or anything. But the person that gave me like my start in it was Webby,
right?
Like local legend. He will like bend over backwards to help out anybody, and I'd met him and I said, you know, this is what I want to do, and he was like, first he was like, come down to the jam so I can make sure you can actually play, you know? Because he didn't want to like associate with someone that like is just a chancer or whatever. And then he was and then he was just like, you know, you can teach from my studio and stuff, like
that's pretty
it's
awesome.
going to help you out. And so he did, and he's been absolutely great. And I don't know if I hadn't have had that little bit of help to start with, that if I would be doing it or not. Like if I would be teaching, I'd still be performing and everything like that. So, you know, like those acts of kindness towards people as they're starting out are so important.
Like, everyone needs a helping hand when they're starting something out. Like, you know, I'm looking to start doing a lot more teaching and potentially make it my full-time thing. And I spent the day with Rich Webb a couple of days ago, and he just helped me out with things I'll need to do and just advice really. And like I got set up on this website, and you do kind of need, like, no one can just go from like not doing something to doing it on their own unless you're like a miracle worker or you have some sort of connection. There's always a connection to someone who's already doing it. And you know, it's nice. Teaching is one of those things as well that it's nice to do something where you can just totally be yourself as well. Like at the Rock Project, all of us have like a totally unique teaching style, but it works for us, and you fall on your feet and you find that eventually. So when I started teaching at Rock Project just over a year ago, I had never taught a lesson, drums, guitar, anything in my life. And without blowing my own trumpet, I do feel like I took to it a bit like a duck to water. It was quite a natural thing for me, and that's what sparked it in me that maybe I should do this. Like, why wouldn't I try and source some revenue, income, I mean, from something I love to do and I'm okay at doing? Because it doesn't feel like a job teaching to me.
That's why I like it as well. Like, I've got like a good balance. Sometimes it's difficult to keep so many plates spinning when you do so many different things. Even though it all kind of comes onto like the music bracket. I've forgotten what I was going to say with that. That whole thing about like it doesn't feel like you're working if you do something that you love. There is an aspect of that. I definitely do feel like I'm working,
of course,
but, you know, like
I shared this thing on Facebook the other day, and everyone who liked it is someone I know that's a self-employed musician. And it was, you know, when you get those quotes and like it's a famous quote, but some of it's been scribbled out and someone's written a more honest version. It was like, if you find a job you love, you'll never work a day again in your life. And it was like, if you find a job doing something you love, you'll work all day, every day, relentlessly to get this done.
It is that.
It's true, isn't it? But
it's hard to switch off.
But at the same time, you have to like have a reality check every now and then and realise that so many people aren't fortunate enough to enjoy what they do, or have a job which is something that is a passion of theirs. You know, you could just be a pen pusher, or you know, you could. Well, I don't want to offend anyone. I've done all of these jobs, so you could be just stocking shelves and hate it. You know, But yeah, let's move on to something else.
Just quickly before we, I've got to do my.
I'm gonna let you finish.
Talking about starting up a new business and stuff, supporting people. My girlfriend Kezia has just left her full-time job. She's been a photographer and retoucher,
and she's very good.
Yeah. She worked for an advertising company for a long while, but she's getting into freelance stuff now. So,
did you promise her you'd plug this?
Yeah.
Was this in retaliation of being like, right, I'll tell you why I eat day-old chicks?
Yeah. So she's taken on work and stuff now. But again, it's that early stages. When you start something. So it's an exciting time.
It is.
It can be a difficult time.
And she is very talented. I'm going to leave all the links to everything she's done and how you can get hold of her in the description as well. Yeah. Just because, you have to use these outlets to help people.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned The Rock earlier being one of the most charismatic pro wrestlers, actors, just men of all time. Yeah. So a shared love that me and Tom have other than music is wrestling. I love a bit of pro wrestling, man, and you do too. And I'm going to try and tie this in a way that I want us to talk about the music that comes with pro wrestling. Yeah. It's a very taboo thing. It's a very I see being a fan of pro wrestling is like being a fan of being a fan of Green Day these days. Yeah. In the 90s, everyone loved wrestling, and it was so cool, and it was just like the thing, Mm-hmm. But now it's really cool to hate it. Yeah. Which is where the tie with Green Day comes in. I was a massive fan of Green Day from about the age of 6. I still am, and I feel like you almost have to I still really love Green Day, man. Because other people are like, what? No way. And that's the reaction you always get with pro wrestling. But one of the things that I think subconsciously really pulled me into it as a kid is the music in it is so cool. So for people who are unfamiliar, so if you're talking about WWE or WWF as it was called up until the early 2000s, each of the wrestlers will come in like boxers do with their own entrance music, and it's such a good tool for just bringing a pop from the crowd. And I want your opinion on one, what you think, how important you think the music is to each wrestler and how well it is suited to them, and 2, is there any part of that you think inspired your music taste? I always say things that inspired my music taste were Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, which had all the cool punk rock on it and hip hop. But then there was a cool time in the mid to late 90s and early 2000s where every wrestler just had a real badass entrance theme. Linking back to Limp Bizkit, The Undertaker at one point came into the ring using Rollin', didn't he?
Oh yeah.
So there's so many good things.
And that's one day when I'm not so worried about busting my fingers, I want to be riding a motorbike like that. That's never left me. I think it's possibly the coolest thing. American Badass.
See, American Badass Undertaker is so controversial.
Yeah, but that was the first Undertaker I really knew, because I didn't. True. I started watching it when he was out, so I didn't get any of the Dead Man stuff. So American Badass was my first real introduction to the Undertaker. Yeah. Yes. So what's your favourite? So what is your overall opinion on the music they use? Because a lot of it is actually in-house made, isn't it, by Jim Johnson? Is that his name? I don't know what his name is.
I think it's Jim Johnson, and so many of the vocals of there's about 10 different tracks, entrance themes, which all sound like the singer from Rage Against the Machine, and I'm pretty sure it's him. Nah. It has to be. The D-Generation X theme tune sounds like it is 100, unless I'm wrong and it totally is, and everyone's going to be in the comments oh, you're so stupid. It just sounds like a Rage song, doesn't it?
It does sound like a Rage song. But, my favourite one, because I used to love the Hardy Boys, probably the Hardy Boys, but I've got a real soft spot for the real American one, the Hulk Hogan song.
Hulk Hogan.
And Sexy Boy as well.
HBK, man.
Yes. So much charisma.
Down.
But I mean, again, the rock one is the
rock one is just so good, man.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where it's just super feel good. I must have heard that entrance theme about 4,000 times. I've seen The Rock enter the ring 1,000 times. I've watched wrestling on repeat since I was a kid. Still watch it every week. But every time I hear that music kick in, I feel like it's goosebumps, man. Yeah. And that's what makes that's why music is so important in every element in like entertainment. So, you know, we do these shows to people, we teach people, but it's really important for people to understand how much of an impact it has in other media outlets. So like, imagine watching a film without any music in it. Imagine watching TV shows without any music in it. Like, music just has this really amazing quality of putting like any sort of emotion in someone, and I know it's a tenuous link and it sounds cheesy, but pro wrestling would not be the same without really good music involved.
That's the 100% true.
Even things like Stone Cold Steve Austin's iconic, like, as soon as you hear that smash, everyone just like goes ham. Everyone just goes full ham. That's good.
I'd say, like, on the other side of the coin as well, like, the whole performance aspect of wrestling is quite inspirational. Like, as a performer, like the little things that The Rock does, like the eyebrow and all that kind of, and like stance and stuff, you can't not be.
He was so unique. As soon as they turned Rocky Malvia or whatever his name was into a heel and this badass character of The Rock, they just found some like unfathomably awesome combination of character, skill and presentation. Like, no one, arguably The Rock, Stone Cold and Hulk Hogan are the three most famous pro wrestlers of all time, and it's for a reason. All of them have those characteristics that were just mentioned, and they all have absolutely killer entrance music.
But do you take some kind of performance aspects from the way that those guys perform? Like, it's completely different.
Like the whole. If we stick with The Rock, his confidence, his charisma, and his wit are things that I feel like were subconsciously just ingrained in me as a kid. And so much of his gimmick was ripping people. And anyone who knows me, I'm sure you can back me up on this, is that I just rip people all the time. But it's my way of showing affection, and it's my way of being an entertainer. You know.
I think you need to, if you want to be unique as a musician, you need to take inspiration from non-obvious sources. Like, Marlon Brando for me is a massive inspiration, and I feel like in a way I wouldn't, this might sound like wishy-washy nonsense, but I do genuinely feel strongly about this. Like, I try and channel some of what Marlon Brando had, like, in the way that I try and play music. And also Eric Cantona as well, best footballer of all time for United. Strong passion of mine.
We're so detoured from music by this point, but,
I know, but
it's an awesome point that you're making.
It's kind of tied in, like, the way that he was, the effortless brilliance that he had. Like, if I could get a tenth of what he had in my field that he had in his field, then, you know, I'm doing something right there.
That's awesome. So I think I'm going to start rounding this up now, but the moral to take away from this episode with the legendary Tom McCarthy is that it's really important to draw inspiration as a musician, not only from musicians. Look at films, actors, sportsmen. All of these people in some way can possibly inspire you. So thanks for being a guest today, Tom.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it, man. So I'm going to put all of Tom's links and everything in the description as usual. It's been awesome to do a new episode of this. It's been a few weeks. I want to do some more, and as per usual, I just want you to remember I'm the jabroni beating, pie eating, trailblazing, eyebrow raising, killer on the mic, comment, sub and like. If you smell, go out and smash it. I got a bit carried away. Anyway, I'll catch you next time, dudes.